Hi, I'm Marc Stevens, author of Adventures in Legal Land and Government Indicted, and you can get your copy today at marcstevens.net. And this is just a new addition to our Same Old Lie World Tour, and it's going to be coming back to Scottsdale. And those who heard the show today on LRN.FM on the No State Project got to hear my interview. I guess we qualify this as an interview for about 10 to 12 minutes with Alan Rodbell, who is the police chief in Scottsdale, Arizona. And just leading up to this, so those who may not be familiar with this, what happened was the police chief for a number of months and the assistant chiefs refused to speak to me, so I had to go through the city manager, Fritz Behring, to actually get this 10 minutes. And I was very surprised he allowed me to record it. You'll hear at the beginning that he did allow me. And this is just more evidence that they're just a gang of killers, thieves, and liars. They have absolutely no evidence whatsoever that their laws apply, that other than a gun and a willingness to kill us for compliance, their laws just, there's just no evidence. And this is just another example. This is the police chief. This is not a beat cop. This is not someone who just joined the force a few weeks ago. This is a guy who's a lifelong police officer. He's the chief. So he's the top guy. So it's no surprise that he did not want to speak, and he immediately gets into an ad hominem rant when I ask him for evidence. And but you can hear all that. So again, if you feel or if you believe that you have evidence that Alan Rodbell could not provide, give us a call on the No State Project, as you heard on today's podcast. I had a critic on for an hour, uninterrupted. So if you're, if you've got the evidence, you're more than welcome to come on the show. But a quick update: I did get an email back from Alan Rodbell, and I'm going to read that. He says, "Mr. Stevens, after we talked, I got to thinking, and I've done a little research. Not sure if this addresses your question, but it talks about where our authority comes from. Hope this helps. Have a good weekend." And what's interesting is I'm asking about evidence. The lie, the same old lie that we're talking about, is that if I'm physically, like today, I am in California. So the lie is, or the presumption, is that if I am physically in California, the Constitution laws of California actually apply to me. And I just want to know the evidence, and there is never any evidence to actually prove that. So what Mr. Rodbell did was, knowing that I'm asking for evidence, I know about your Constitution, I know about your laws, I want to know why and what the evidence is that just because I'm physically in Scottsdale, they apply to me. So what he does is he gives me the parts of the city charter, which the only thing he could be getting to here is the law applies because the law says so. So if I was to go down in his email here, he's got part of it highlighted. Section 12 here, the charter in Scottsdale, to establish and regulate the police of the town, to appoint watchmen and policemen, and to remove them and to prescribe their powers and duties. Again, it's written down on a piece of paper. Where's the evidence to bridge this huge gap? Here's my physical location in Scottsdale. Here's your charter. How does it apply to me? Is it just because it says so? That's just circular logic. The law applies because the law said so. It also begs the question, why wouldn't Fritz Behring just tell me? If this actually was evidence the Constitution, laws, and the local laws apply because I was physically in Scottsdale, why didn't they just tell me? Why did he say I don't know? Why would the city council for several months refuse to tell me anything? Why wouldn't they just say, well, Mark, why don't you? So I'm going to respond back to this, but it's not an answer. It doesn't actually address. I'm asking for evidence. The code itself applies, not for the code. I already know they have a city charter that doesn't address it. Again, any criticism somebody has, if you think that I'm wrong, that Mr. Rodbell did provide evidence during the phone call, email me, call the show, let me know what you thought it was. But I don't believe he did. And yeah, I know he insists. You'll hear it yourself next in the video. I just don't see it. But again, if you disagree, or you think you could provide the evidence that he could not, give us a call here at the No State Project. You can also email me at marcstevens@marcstevens.net. You can go to marcstevens.net and you can contact me through there. Again, my name is Marc Stevens. Website marcstevens.net. All right, let me put the recording on with Chief Alan Rodbell, and you said it's okay to record?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. I had sent you the question before, so I hope it's not a surprise. The first initial question I had is, and it seems, and I've spoken with Mr. Behring and a number of other people that you work with, that the general agreement or premise that you operate under and your men operate under is that if I or someone are physically in Scottsdale, then the Constitution of Arizona and the laws of the state and of the city apply to me?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
As a per individual in our country, the laws of the country apply to you, as well as your rights and benefits of being in the country, whether you're a visitor or whether you're a citizen. Certain things you can't do. You can't vote, of course, if you're not a citizen. But you certainly have, if you are visiting from another country, all the rights that American citizens have, you have by virtue of being here. So, yes, the answer to that's yes.
Yeah. All right. I wanted to know what actual evidence do you have to show that the Constitution and laws of the state apply to me just because I'm physically in Scottsdale?
Well, you know what? Unless you fell asleep in 8th grade civics, you learned a little bit about the Constitution, the style of government, the 3 branches of government. And so you may not want to believe that you have some responsibilities as an individual, as a citizen in the country, but you have some responsibilities to abide by the laws. Now, I will tell you, I have little interest in you and your activities at any given time unless you violate the law, which is you violate someone else's rights or you don't abide by the rules that the people that you elect to government create. And so, you know, I don't walk around trying to express my jurisdiction over people as the police chief. Law-abiding citizens, as far as I'm concerned, they come and go as they please. It's a great country for that. You can decide to be whatever you want to be in life. It's a great country. But when you violate the law and the laws that are put together by the representatives that you elect, you're held accountable for that. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go through all the things that give me the responsibilities to do that. If you don't believe it, you can always test the system, but I wouldn't suggest it because you are required to abide by the law. That's basic 8th grade civics. You did go to school, right?
Are you getting a kick out of insulting me?
I'm just telling you, you're asking me what authority I have.
I didn't ask you that.
I don't having that conversation.
Were you asleep? Were you asleep when I asked the question? I asked you a simple, straightforward question.
Right. Here's where we're going, Mr. Stevens. I have no interest in circular argument. I have no interest in your political positions. I don't have any interest in debating with you.
I'm not calling a debate with you. I asked you a question of evidence, and instead of answering the question, you insulted me.
I'm not providing you any evidence that you're asking for. This conversation is an unnecessary conversation. As a journalist, if you are a journalist, you come to the table.
Another insult.
You come to the table with a position that you're asking me to defend. Quite frankly, the Constitution of the United States.
I didn't ask you that.
And I'm not in a position or interest in doing that.
I asked you what evidence you have to prove that the Constitution and laws of the state actually apply to me because I'm physically in Scottsdale. Now, without an insult, and I'm glad you're not interested in circular logic, you can just answer the question.
I have no interest in providing evidence to you about your responsibilities as a United States citizen or an individual who is in this country. I have no interest in doing that.
You can answer the question. It's a question of evidence. So you have no evidence. So you have no evidence.
Whatever way you want to twist it, Mr. Stevens, you can twist it. I have no interest in debating with you what evidence I may or may not have to prove that as a citizen of this country, you have to abide by the law.
You said whether you're a citizen or not. So whether I'm a citizen or not is irrelevant to the issue. It's irrelevant to the issue.
You have to abide by the law. I don't have to provide evidence that you have to abide by the law. You went to 8th grade civics. They taught you civics. That's the rule.
Sir, you don't have to insult me. I also learned the scientific method in 8th grade, and apparently you want to avoid that. I'm asking you a simple question. You can either insult me, which is typical. Let me finish, sir. You can insult me, which is typical of your profession, or you can answer the question. At least your boss, Mr. Behring, was honest and said, I don't know anything about such evidence. And that's fine. If you don't have the evidence, you can just be honest and tell me that. But don't insult me.
Mr. Behring is a wonderful man, and I'm glad that you had the opportunity to talk to him. He's a pleasure to talk to. I don't have the time of day to explain to you what responsibilities you have as a citizen or a visitor to our country to abide by the law. The jurisdiction I have over you is the jurisdiction that the state allows me to have in enforcing the laws and rules of the state, the city of Scottsdale, Arizona, and the federal laws. So I have the authorities to enforce those. I had no interest in you or your behavior as an individual or citizen until you violate those rules. I don't have to provide you. You want to see the law books? Come in. We'll show you law books. You can go through them. But I'm not going to sit here and provide evidence to you. I don't have to.
I'm asking you a question as a professional adult.
I have no interest in your question, Mr.
You have
Stephen.
no interest in my question.
It doesn't interest me. Your question doesn't interest me in any way. If you don't believe you have to abide by the rules, then test that.
I didn't say that. I'm asking you. Look, let me just finish without you interrupting me. I asked you a question, and you said yes, that if I'm physically in Scottsdale, the Constitution laws would apply to me. I just asked you for evidence to actually prove that was true, and you launched into an ad hominem attack against me and insulted me. Now, are you saying...
You're right. I apologize for my reaction to what I think is a silly question. And I apologize.
A silly question.
The fact of the matter is, I have no interest in spending any part of my day explaining to you where I get my authority from to enforce the law on any given citizen or non-citizen for that matter. I just have no interest in spending my day. If you don't understand that, I suggest you consult an attorney, and perhaps they can provide you all the statutes necessary, which quite frankly are all the statutes that exist.
No, what I understand is that you're insulting, you're condescending, and
okay. Well, you don't like me very much, and I guess we'll have to live with that.
I'm just going based on the few minutes you've spoken to me. You've attacked me. You have mischaracterized what I've said. You refuse to answer a simple question. Either you have the evidence or you don't. To say I'm not interested and then mischaracterize my question as asking you about my responsibilities is dishonest at best. Just answer the question honestly, or tell me you either have the evidence or you don't. And if you don't, great. Okay. If you do, give me the specifics. It's a very simple question.
You have my sincere apology for the way I mishandled the telephone call, but I have no interest in furthering this conversation.
Okay.
I promised you some time. We've had the time. I'm not going to be able to satisfy you.
You could just answer the question. You could answer the question that you have the evidence,
I think
or
I have
say you don't.
You don't want my answer. You don't accept my answer. My answer was very simple. The laws of the land are by the representatives who create those laws are the people that you elect as a citizen, and they have given me the authority. I'm not going to sit here and point out every statute that gives me authority, okay?
I didn't ask you that, and it's dishonest of you to keep characterizing it that way. I asked you...
Again, I don't have any more times I can apologize to you. I think the conversation's over. I do appreciate your time, and I do apologize to you for any insult that you may feel as I may have rendered. I certainly didn't mean to be insulting.
Well, it doesn't come across that way because you still refuse to answer the question and you continue to mischaracterize my question.
I've apologized for insulting you. I haven't apologized for not answering the question. There are two different things. I'm not apologizing for not answering the question because I actually think I answered it. Point is that you feel I haven't, and that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. You don't feel I've answered your question. Okay, I'm all right with that. But I think I have. So I apologize for the way I came off in the conversation because that I do apologize for. But I'm not apologizing for not answering your question. I think I did.
You didn't, and
then we'll just not have satisfied.
And I think that's why your office misled me and said I had to go through internal affairs to set up a media interview with you.
We thought you had a complaint. We thought
No. That is not. They knew what I was talking about, and they misled me. They knew what I was talking about.
But typically, when someone calls and says they want to come in, they want to record, they want to videotape, usually it has to do with a complaint. And since I don't investigate the complaints, since I'm the guy that decides what punishment, if the complaint is a valid complaint, what responsibility the officer has, and I hold him accountable, then it isn't always fair for me to hear the complaint first. So we ask Internal Affairs to fully investigate the complaint. And I think somewhere along the line, it was a misunderstanding that you were calling with a complaint.
No.
And the right process would have been to contact Internal Affairs to make that complaint so it could be fully investigated and be put on my desk. And so I think that's probably why we mishandled that.
No, your people lied. I said I'm from a radio station.
They're all liars, I guess. But
here you did. Here they did. And my last question is if I did business in the same manner as you guys by forcing the community to pay me for my services, would you consider me a criminal?
I'm really lost there. The city does pay taxes so they have police officers and public safety officers provide a service. I don't know where you're going with handing out. I mean, taxes are, I guess some people might interpret them as a force. I guess I look at it as my civic duty to pay taxes for the roads and all the amenities we get, including the public safety service. So we're not going to see eye to eye there either. So I can't really answer your question. I guess you could not pay your taxes, and you could see whether there's an authority to hold you accountable for that.
That's
and
not
that
what I'm
wouldn't be
asking.
me anyway.
If I
well,
for,
then I keep
I
interpreting what you're asking, so I can only answer what I think you're asking.
But if I forced people in my community to pay me for my services, would you consider me a criminal?
No, because I'm not going to say yes to you and have it turn around. I just said it was okay to not pay your taxes. I don't hold a gun to anybody to pay anything. I don't know what you're talking about.
Not you. Maybe not you personally.
For my service. You pay taxes for my service. Who are you accusing is holding a gun to your head to make you pay something you don't want to pay?
Well, if someone doesn't pay a tax, they go to jail. And if I'm doing business in Scottsdale and not paying a sales tax, I'm going to go to jail. I mean, you
okay, I didn't make that rule, by the way.
It doesn't matter who made the rule. I'm asking you a question about the nature in which you do business. If I'm a criminal for forcing people, just yes or no, would you consider me, just honestly, if I force people with or without a gun to pay for my services in my community here, would you consider me a criminal for doing that?
That is such a large question. You're going to have to give me more exact. What service are you forcing someone to pay for that they don't want to pay for?
That's necessary? Why would the service be necessary?
Yes, what service are you forcing people to pay for? This is a really nonsensical conversation. I can't win this one unless I give you the answer you want. Then I win.
Sir, you could just be honest.
You're not getting it.
If you could be honest and answer the question.
You don't ever question my integrity. You can question me being rude. You can question me being inappropriate. You can question me being insulting, but don't ever question my integrity. Okay? So the conversation is over, Mr. Stevens. I wish you the very best of luck, in getting the answers you're looking for. I have no interest in you in your activities you're involved in until you come to my attention as someone who's violated the rules and laws of the state of Arizona and the city of Scottsdale. That's the only time I have any interest in you and your activities. Otherwise, you're free to do whatever you want to do. You're a citizen of this country. It's a fabulous country. This is an amazing place. But my only interest in you is when you violate the laws. Oh, I have an interest in your safety. My interest is making sure you're safe, and I'm preventing anything from happening to you. But I certainly have no interest in you in terms of your activities until you cross that line. And if you're asking for where I get the authority for that, you gave it to me by voting in the legislature that created laws.
Well, you've got no evidence to that.
You can get rid of that.
That again, if you avoid the issue. I'm asking for evidence, the Constitution,
laws. I'm going to continue avoiding the issue because that's the only answer I know, Mr. Stevens.
And that's fine.
Okay, thanks for the phone call. Take care, sir.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now. Thank you. Bye-bye.